Welcome to our conversation. I'm Heidi, and I'm here with my dear friend Jan.
Hello.
And what I just love about Jan as my friend is her sparkle and her spirit and her spunk. And we've been friends for 15 years, and you have always been like that. But something happened about 5 years ago that kind of rocked your world. And I want to just have a conversation about it, and if you'll share your story with us, that would be great. So why don't you take us back 5 years ago and kind of tell us what happened?
My son was in the Army, and they were having a Soldiers Weekend, a Memorial Day celebration at a lake, and there was an accident, and he lost his life. And it was on Memorial Day in 2011, and we were sitting on the couch one evening, and the Army showed up at the front door to let us know that there had been an accident, and he was missing, presumed dead. And it didn't sink in. My son was a swimmer, and I just kept thinking, go find him. You know, what do you mean missing? Go find him. It took about 30 hours, and
Wow.
they recovered his body from the lake about 30 hours later.
And you were here in Utah, and this happened?
In Fort Rucker, Alabama.
Wow. And so here you are, halfway across the country. You've just gotten the news, and like 2 people showed up, or was it a chaplain? Was it a police?
Chaplain and an Army representative.
Representative?
So there were 2.
There were 2. So I'm a mom, and we've talked about this before, and you know, everybody has their dark times and struggles in life, but when I hear a story like that, as a mom, like, how do you take the next breath? Like, how do you even process that and think it's for real?
I'm not sure that you do think it's for real. It took a long time for it to set in for me, and I was convinced that the Army had sent him off on some secret mission.
Oh.
And at some point he would show back up, and it did take them about 2 weeks to get him home. Even after they had found him, they had investigations and autopsies, and they wanted to do a memorial service at Fort Rucker with his colleagues and
Right.
things like that. But even when they brought him home, we were not allowed to see him. So it took a long time. It took a long time for it to set in for me that it was real. You know, he wasn't there, but I just knew at some point he would be. And you hear the stories of moms where something has happened to their children, and they felt it. They knew something was wrong. And I know that for days I just kept going through this. I didn't feel it. It couldn't have happened. I didn't feel it. So it did take a long time for me for it to set in and come to terms with the fact that he was not around anymore.
So 2 weeks from the time the accident happened to when the body came home, when your son came home. So, like, how are you functioning? Like, do you go into survival mode with making lists and phone calls and to do things, or?
Well, and you're not really functioning. I think you're robotic. I cleaned out more closets than I ever even knew I had. And you just go into an automated mode where you're just doing things. And for us, we didn't know when they were bringing him home. We couldn't make funeral arrangements. We couldn't, you know, we have family from out of town, and you know, I just tell them, I'll let you know. I don't, you know, I just don't know when he's coming home. And then, of course, once they do give you that time frame, then you go into making funeral arrangements and getting everybody in from out of state. And it's a little more difficult with the Army when you lose a soldier. They assign you what they call a casualty assistance officer. And that person is by your side just about 24/7.
Really?
And there's stacks of paperwork and things that you have to go through, and for a year. I mean, they quarterly sit down with you and go through a lot of different things. But even at the mortuary, because the Army pays for all the services, so even at the mortuary they're there with you, and they don't really have any input on what you're doing, but they're there, but they really just stand by your side.
So was that a good thing in your case, or was that an annoyance, like an intrusion in your privacy and your intimacy with going through this?
Our casualty assistance officer, I was really frustrated when Cody joined the Army, initially anyway. And some of the things that we had gone through, and I just felt like the military was not on the up and up. We didn't get a lot of information. And, when they came to my home that night, and I was just in shock. I didn't know what to say, what to do.
Sure.
And one of them kind of patted me on the shoulder and said, "You're sure taking this better than I would be." Well, at that point, I may have lost control just a little bit.
Don't tell me what you said.
My thoughts were, how am I supposed to take this?
Yeah.
What should I be laying on the floor? Should I be crying? Tell me what I need to do. And about half an hour after they left, I get a phone call from our casualty assistance officer, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, and he wanted to come out. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how, he came to our home, and he walked in, and he put his arms around me, and he just gave me a hug, and I thought, somebody gets it, And, this guy was really tall, and he was thin, and he was young, and he just kind of reminded me a lot of my son. And there was kind of a peace there. And he was a great guy, he was very helpful. The news wanted to come out and do an interview, and I did not want that. And I can remember sitting on my patio and having Channel 5 helicopters circling the house. And I didn't want an interview, and I didn't want it to be about a bunch of soldiers partying on the weekend. And, I just didn't know where to go with that. And he stepped in, and he talked with the media, and, it all worked out that way. So he handled things that we weren't able to handle.
Good.
And it worked out well.
So that's the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You get through the funeral, people start going home, family starts going home. So is there a sense of normalcy that you can come back to after something like this?
No, and I don't know. I've often said that your life at that time becomes a different normal. So, people will say he's in a better place, or things will get better with time. They do not. You're never going to heal that wound.
So the old cliche of time heals all wounds, you're
No,
not there yet at the 5-year mark.
And I don't know, as a mother, do you ever get there, or as a father or a parent, do you, you're not going to heal that wound. That's a hole in your heart that will be there forever. And there's things as you're going through your life that you'll reflect back on, and I drive past his high school all the time, or, things that we did or places that we went, and it's an open wound, and that doesn't heal. I think that you learn to get up every day, put one foot in front of the other, and move on, because it's what you have to do. You can't really hide yourself in a hole and say, I've lost my child, where do I go from here?
Well, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, because I think you have done an amazing job of going on, even though that wound is open and you expect it to always be open. And I just don't know if everybody gets there. Because I said in the beginning, like, you've got spunk and you've got sparkle, you had it before, you still have it, but in your eyes, I can see that the wound is still there. But some people, it takes them longer to get out of the darkness, or perhaps, like, only time will tell, but maybe they will never get out of the darkness. And, you know, they turn to addiction or alcohol, you know, whatever. And so their lives almost become dysfunctional because of the tragedy that they've had to deal with. So my question to you is, what is it for you? Like, I know, because we're friends, that you're not a particularly religious person, but yet you come through with this strength and this, I don't know if it's a faith, but it's like a hope. I mean, it's a resilience that I don't know that everybody has. So part of what I want to do is try to discover what it is that you have and share that with others.
I have a huge support system, lots of friends, and as you know, our work family is very close. And with the military does have a group, the Gold Star families, that, you know, we've all encountered this. We're all going through the same thing. And I think a lot of it is, you're not alone in the world. You know, you've got people that have gone through your same tragedy. And I think losing a child is the greatest loss anybody can ever go through. You know, it's painful to lose a spouse or a sibling or a parent. You cannot even begin to imagine the loss of a child and the pain that brings. But being around other parents that have also lost children, I think we grow off of each other's strengths. And as you know, we've got people that we work with that have lost their children recently, and it's just been great to be able to have all of us together, and we can build. And I'm a survivor. I've always been a survivor. My son would not want me to not survive this. And, you know, I've got grandchildren that I've got to be there for. And, you know, it's just, you don't have a choice. You have to move on.
I love that. Where do you think that comes from for you?
I have always been a survivor.
Okay.
I grew up in a tough childhood. I learned very young in life how to survive. And I think that I've done that well. Many people that come from my background do turn to drugs or addiction or loss of self-worth. And I just won't allow myself to live in that world.
So, do you believe that you'll see your son again on the other side? Like, what's on the other side for you? Because, like I said before, I know you're not a religious person, but what do you think that is for you?
I would hope. I know through all of this, I've gone through some very questioning times, you know. I grew up in religion and have always believed in God, and there were times that went away, and I'm not going to lie about that. I've had the issues of there can't be a God.
Right.
God wouldn't have done this.
Right.
And even to the extent of close family members that have passed before me, really, because if they were there and looking out for him, why didn't they save him? So I've questioned a lot of that, and I've gone back to knowing there is a God. I don't know about an afterlife. I would hope that at the end of the day we'll be together again. Our relationship was so tight and so binding all of his life. You know, we did things together. Even as a teenager, he'd go off with his buddies and invite me to go. Who does that?
And he was your only son, right?
He was my only
biological.
Child.
Okay,
Yep.
child.
And so we were always very close, and so, I would hope. I know he's with me. I know he's with his kids. I just can't touch him. But,
Right.
but I know he's there, and I would hope at the end we will have that opportunity.
You talked a little bit about the military support system, and I know you've had some other ideas kind of floating in your mind about how you can help others and other families who are going through similar situations. So talk a little bit about what you think might be a silver lining that comes out of, what you can do other than what you've already done, or if you want to expand on that a little bit more.
I am a strong person, and I think I'm drawn a lot, with our friends at work that have lost children, to be there to help them. And I think in my conversations with them, I think it's helped them. And I'd like to be that person that can help them take that next step. And, one of them called me right after her son's death and was saying, just help me, I know you can help me. You've lost your son, I know you can help me. And I said, I can't help you. I can't take that pain away. I can't bring him back. I can tell you what you're going to go through. I can tell you what your next steps are. And I can be there. But I can't help.
So when you have those conversations with other moms or parents, it helps you to know you're helping, even though it's a selfless act of generosity on your part, because I know every time that reopens, that wound. And I mean, does it make it worse in a way, or does it help in a way to talk about it and help others?
It does reopen that wound. And with our friend that went through it a year ago, when she called me that morning, it took me right back. It took me back to that day. And I was literally sick all day long. And just knowing what she was going through and the heartache, and my heart was breaking all over again.
Yeah.
It completely started it. But it's extremely therapeutic to be with these other moms and talk about their children. And I've said to both of them, don't let the heartache tear you up. Remember the good times. And one of the gals made a comment to me a week ago, and she said somebody had asked her if she could go back and never have her son.
Ooh.
To not have this heartache, would she do that? And I don't think in any of our cases we would do that. All the years that I had with my son and with her son, those are all cherished years.
Sure.
And so would any of us ever turn back time and just not have them knowing in the future
outcome.
what the outcome was going to be? No, none of us would have done that. It was just, it's very therapeutic to have us all together,
Right.
to talk about things, to laugh about things. And that's kind of the point that I like to drive home is think back, laugh at the times that you had together. When the heartache starts to set in, bring in the good times. Remember those good times.
Yeah.
And you'll have your times where you just cry and cry and cry and cry, and that's healthy to do that.
That's okay. Yeah.
But don't let it run your life.
All right. So, what do you hope for?
I do hope that at the end, that I will be with my son again. I hope that in my talks with my other friends and people that have gone through this, that it does help a little bit to help them get past the hard times.
Well, everybody has a story, and I think there is a lot of power in our stories. and being able to share them and help others by sharing them. So thank you, my friend,
Thank you.
for sharing your story. And I just know that this conversation about hope is going to help a lot of people.
I hope so.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Cut.